that night, when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Well, I think that the bottom line turns out to be that the captain, the buck stops with the captain. You know that, I know that. If somebody's going to get in big trouble, it's always the captain's fault. Now, as the heavy weather captain, remember Dudley Parketti of the Wolford Sank laid in behind Isle Royale. He says, "This is too much for me. I know what's going to happen here. I'm protecting my ship and my crew, you know." But to Fitzgerald, only 17 years old, we should make it. I'm certain that if my dad knew as chief engineer on that boat was going on, McShirley knew what was going on too. And it's somehow...
regarding some of the troubles.
Yeah, but somehow either that extra prop blade got loose, because even the Coast Guard and several other reports say it's either a log, burning coop weavers in it. Maybe a big log came in and knocked it off, you know, from the surface of Lake Superior, or something on deck let loose. Now what do you got? You got a hatch cover crane, and them babies are tied down, buddy. I'm telling you what, there's no way there. You got turnbuckles and you ain't going nowhere, I wouldn't think, unless that propeller blade cut loose there. And the only other thing that I can possibly think of is when he hit, there's a starboard list, and that's where Caribou Shoal was at. You know, even static pressure, I've been reading a lot about that. You don't actually have to touch the bottom. You can get within a foot away from it, and it could pop a seam. Remember the Fitzgerald's welded boat here, you know? And could that compressed...
It wasn't riveted together. It was welded together.
And the compressed air would have shot that vents right off. The photographic evidence of hold hatch cover number 1, 2, or 3, the vent you can see is just sheared completely off. Big hole, 8-inch hole. You got all this water pouring down in there, something's going to give. And when they're rocking and rolling out there, buddy, I mean, that's all you can do to hang on. We get comments on here all the time from people, you know. They say they agree with trying to get the logbook. They don't agree with getting the logbook, let it go. Yet, to this day, it's just amazing to me that you can't even, if you've got your cabin cruiser and you're out there fishing, you know, and you drift over that, you're not even allowed to drift over this. Like, no, what is this? And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. That doesn't make any sense at all. We know where the Morel's at. You can go drift right over the Morel. We know where the Bradley's at. You can drift right over the Bradley. But not the Fitzgerald, you know. And then come to find out that the bow is in American waters.
So the Canadian government, as best as everyone understands or everyone believes, that the thing's sitting in Canadian waters, so the Canadian government stepped in and said the ship is now off limits. It's an official memorial gravesite. There will be no more diving on the Edmund Fitzgerald. If the bow is... parts of the bow or 1/3 of the crash site in American waters, it doesn't change anything, does it, in regards to going down on it?
Well, I'm going to make a prediction, and I guarantee if I hit the ladder, I guarantee I'll make a prediction come true. But somebody, somewhere, sometime is going to get some updated photos. They to this day, they got people going down to the Titanic, taking photos.
They're trying to.
You can't, you know, people go, oh, it's a graveyard disturbed. What do I mean? It's 529 feet down. The average scuba diver ain't going to make it. You got to have, there's 2 guys, and I got their name written down there. They're Navy divers. They got down, they were breathing Trimex or something. It's a bunch of different gases, you know. And I've seen pictures of them. They got all these scuba tanks, not just one on their back, but all kind of reserve tanks. And they got down to the wreck, and they had 6 or 8 minutes on the wreck. That's all they could do. They're the only ones to ever touch the ship since the sinking. And it took like an hour and a half or 2 hours to decompress so they didn't get the bends on the way up. Now, the question asked, and I've had people ask me this, well, if they dove on a boat, who's to say they didn't get in that pilot house and grab the logbook? Well, if you see how many of those tanks he had on him, he wasn't going to get through that open door. Remember the one door where the pilot house was open? You would have had to take all them tanks off, and I know exactly where the logbook was. Could they make it safekeeping? Yeah, I suppose, but they're logging all this stuff right there. And when she nose dived in and all that water, that logbook got washed clear in the back there somewhere, you know. Finding it in 6 minutes, that would be a heck of a deal.
That pilot house door was dogged open.
Dogged open. That is the secret.
So why? Why was it open?
If you're going to save your life, now think about this, you're going to open that door and dive over the side. Oh, wait, let me dog the door. Let me dog the door.
Dive over the side into 25-foot seas in freezing cold Lake Superior. There's nowhere to hide here.
You ain't just a kid in there, Jerry. It's cold. It's cold business up there, and I don't know. But I like I said, in the summertime, when I was a watchman on the steel, you'd do your soundings of the ballast tanks and stuff. If they had both doors shut and you opened this door, whoosh, all the paperwork would fly all over the place. It was always one door open. Now, when you got 50, 60 mile an hour winds, I don't know about that. I just don't. That's what I'm saying. When you talk about theories, it's all a theory. Getting that logbook, if it would be possible, and once again, they did find paperwork from the Titanic has been done for 100 years, and they were able to restore that. So, and that's salt water. So I would think fresh water. You'd have even what was the Morel? They got the logbook off the Morel, and we were able to see what was going on. The only other thing is there anybody out there? Hello, anybody out there that sailed on the Fitzgerald? How about you give us a little
I'd love
heads
to
up
sit
there
down
so we
with
can
you.
talk to you about this.
There can't be that many left. I mean, I did sit down with your brother a couple of years ago who sailed as a porter on the Fitzgerald, and he's 80, what is he?
Well, he's 5 years older than me. He's going to be, let's see here, he's born in 43, so that's going to be 80, whatever.
Somewhere in there, low 80s. So, again, there can't be too many humans left alive who sailed on the Edmund Fitzgerald. I mean, he was a very, very young, almost a kid when he was on the thing. So
we were all kids back then.
I hear you there.
We were fearless, and like I said, I was so proud because the Fitzgerald, man, that's the biggest thing going there. I mean, she got surpassed. They ended up building bigger boats yet,
Sure.
And
the Anderson was lengthened to become bigger.
They approved the load limit in 1969. Okay, and I've read reports from other people. The Fitzgerald was really a nice riding boat. It wasn't hard to handle. It was a good riding boat. Until 1969, when they made the load lines change. When did our first, September 6th of 69, internal and external damage occurs when the Fitzgerald hits the ground near the Sulaks. Then, in April of 70, the Edmund Fitzgerald collided with that SS Hukelach, however you pronounce it, causing damage on the Fitzgerald for the second time in less than 8 months. September 4th, the Edmund Fitzgerald is damaged when it hits a lock wall. This is the third time the Edmund Fitzgerald has been subjected to significant damage in only 12 months. May of 1973, damage is sustained by hitting a Sioux Walk wall. And of course, the ship loses its bow anchor, in the fog off of Belle Isle. That was January 74. In June of 74, the Edmund Fitzgerald hits the Sioux Lock wall again, causing additional damage for the second time in 1 month. Now, I ask you,
a lot of mishaps.
After they did the load lines, after they hauled more cargo, she was a real bitch to handle, I'm guessing.
Something
you handle
changed.
boats some boats are beautiful, and some boats you go, gee,
Yeah.
She was beautiful as she was designed. But when they changed that, they start making more money.
More accidents, more wall bangers in the locks.
I'll bet you all the repairs they had to do far outweighed the doggone money they made by hauling more taconite. And all they did was wore out until eventually on November 10th, that boat says, this is it, boys. I can't go no more. This is it.
Theory-wise, have you changed what you think happened to the Fitzgerald? Have you varied over the last 3 or 4 years as I know you got away from this thing a little bit, but when we started up, you dug back in a big way. Have you changed your opinion in regards to what happened to the Edmund Fitzgerald? I believe it went aground. I believe it was taking water from below. I believe it had issues with the hatches, and the vent covers were off. It was taking water from the top. It was in the worst sea it had ever been in. Captain McSorley said so. You come down, did it break in half on the surface before it went down, and that's why it went down, or did it nosedive in? And have you changed anything in regards to what you believe happened to the ship?
That, my good man, is a very good question. I stay the course, if it please the court, for everything I've said, with the addition, Exhibit C or D or whatever it was. I've given a lot of thought since Keith Baker on the Anderson there, and I really do appreciate that. And someday I'm going to shake his hand and tell him that. Don't give tip of the senator's cap there, Keith. I never thought about, until I read that, about them changing the propeller blade. It never dawned on me that.
So we've added that this year.
Yeah,
the possibility of a propeller blade that was fastened to the deck, that it broke loose and caused the damage that Captain McSorley referenced in his radio conversations with Anderson and Avafor. So we added that this year. That may explain the vent covers, but again, getting back to the theory of what actually happened, regardless of what caused the vent covers to come undone or the rail to go down, are you changing anything at all in regards to how you believe it went down?
More so than ever, that because since the last time we recorded, Mr. Evans wrote in there that he was on April of '74 in the spring.
He is offering firsthand evidence of someone who sailed on the ship 1 year prior to it going down, and he explained what he saw in regards to these hatch covers. That's really key information.
Right. And Richard Orgel was another Columbia employee that sailed with McSorley. And the springing action of that boat, that's why he's the one that said it was a diving board, you know. I mean, and he's also the one that said that certain wave conditions, I mean, the whole boat, you know, it's going like this, and all of a sudden the bow just bends like that, and you're going down, you're plowing water. Wait a minute, they had to slow down to get the thing to come back, and the groaning, and you've probably heard metal scream. I know you've heard cables sing. I mean,
metal twisting, steel twisting, and the sound it makes is the eeriest sound that ever come across my ears. Period.
And I heard that sound when I was ship keeping on the Middletown, because they're sitting in ice in January and February, right? And you get a northeaster, you know, it's blowing water in, so the boat's moving around. You got expansion joints. You get a southwester, blows the water out. I mean, it's unearthly. The sounds that they had to be hearing.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
And when I was on the Joe France there as a watchman, I was on watch late when we were at anchor behind this has been, when was this, 89 I think it was. I went down as far as I could go into the chain locker. And the noise, it must have been 40, 45 mile an hour winds. We were at anchor. I mean, just unless you experience noise like that, it stays with you your whole life. Just like you said, you heard the metal screeching. This job ain't for the faint-hearted, boy. I tell you what, you know, complacency and you're nice and calm until the old excrement hits the fan, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The ship was definitely sinking. I almost believe that it was coming apart on the surface, and as she nosedived, it either came apart fully on the way down or when it hit. I don't know where you on then. And I don't know that it matters, but...
Well, it may not matter, but the whole purpose of all this is to try and prevent this stuff from happening. And if it keeps the company and the Coast Guard honest and making them do certain things, and that's what they should do. But my dad, that was his theory. She just nosedived in, and when she hit the bottom, you got 200 feet of boat still out of the water, you know.
Because it's in 530 feet of water. The ship is 729 feet long, so if it did go on in a 45-degree angle when it hit, if it's still all attached, the stern back end of the boat's still out of the water.
Well, we just showed you that diagram there, and the screen bulkheads are right by, oddly enough, hatch 13 and 14 where the propellers were. Propeller blades. Geez, I don't know, man. If I'm hauling a couple of tons extra on the deck here, I think I'd want a bit more protection there as far as structural integrity, you know. But then again, I'm not a marine architect and I don't build boats, so
yeah, I don't believe Captain McSorley was negligent in regards to the hatch covers. Yes, when they left, the weather was fine. It did turn to gale, progressed to storm, to hurricane, but somewhere along route before the seas were 25 foot tall, he would have made sure, as a veteran captain as he was, that these hatch covers were dogged down. I don't believe he went out into Lake Superior thinking, don't worry about the hatch covers. I don't believe that at all. Well, and maybe you couldn't clamp them down because of all the warping over the years, but it's not like they didn't try. There's no way.
Well, I would never blame the deckhands. Piccati there on the Woodford Sykes said there was, however you say it, excuse me, Piquet, I'll get it. There's times they wouldn't dog them all down. beautiful day, and they're not going that far away.
I could see skipping from Detroit to Toledo without clamping everything down. But you're going to venture out into Lake Superior with
I wouldn't
eventual
think so.
storm warnings
Right.
coming? You're going to make sure you're batting down.
Well, listen. According to what he said, you put the clamps on, but he went on one. Here's the hatch cover, right? And he got some clamps on. He could go on this one side of it and jump like this, and a bunch of them clamps would fall off. And then you had that much space between the thing, you know, and that's why the most cryptic, if you ask me, the most cryptic line of everything is, don't allow nobody out on deck. Because I could see him going, we gotta try and figure this out. We're taking water in through the thing here, see. And he was hoping he could make it that final 15 miles, you know, and at
So
least get
close.
inside and beach the doggone boat somewhere. At least people will be alive, you know.
They were so close.
I know one thing. Until we all pass and get up to heaven and can see the whole thing happening, I'm sure that we'll be able to see. I always thought about heaven, you know.